is our 50th episode of Let's Do Lunch. Hard to believe it's been that many, but we're just roaring along here, folks. As you know, we talk about on Tuesdays about the future of entertainment, and we have a terrific panel today. Before we introduce the panel, though, let me go over the rest of the schedule for the week. Tomorrow we have Gordon Bellamy. Gordon is CEO of the Gay Gaming Professionals Group. He will be with Nika Noor, who is a visiting scholar at USC and executive director of IGDA Foundation, and they'll be talking about diversity and inclusion in games. On Thursday, which is our Rights Tech Roundtable, we have Kurt Debacue and Sejan McFarland. They're with SyncFloor, and they'll be with Paul Sweeting from the Rights Tech Project. On Friday, we have Jonathan Azu back in a really special session on understanding white privilege. This will be an open conversation format with author Tom Schweizer. So please make sure to join us for all these events this week. All right, as we always do, I encourage everyone to introduce themselves in the chat. Make sure to use the drop down and change it to all panelists and attendees so that everyone can see your introductions. You're welcome to drop in links. Whoever you want to introduce yourself is fine, and get conversations going with other people. Also, if you have questions for the panel, please put them in the Q&A. You'll see there's a chat and a Q&A button. So open up the Q&A for questions and put your comments or introductions in the chat. All right, without further ado, today, as I said, is our Future of Entertainment Day. We have our good friend, Mike Vorhaus from Vorhaus Advisors back, and he is with Andrew Schneider, who is CMO of a new joint venture called Fox Bet. It's a joint venture between Fox Corporation and Stars Group, and the focus of their conversation is online sports betting. Gentlemen, please join us.
Thanks very much, Ned. Nice to be with you. I like to start all of these with just a little view out of my prison here. I'm sorry, my home, and beautiful day up here in the Hollywood Hills. Thanks for joining us, Andy.
Pleasure to be here, Mike. Thanks for having me, and hello to the audience.
Our pleasure. And 50, you know, I don't know what the anniversary gift is for 50, Ned. I feel like it might be gold or something. So,
you know, Mike, I can't believe it's taken 50 to finally invite me on.
You know, really good point, Andy. You know, point well made. I guess I might explain in a minute why that is. But also, I just want to take 1 second and say, on behalf of everybody, just what an amazing job Do has done. They were quick to do this. Nobody else was really quicker. I think they've had a super high quality. And my hat off to Chinzar, Sherman, and Laura Somerville, and of course to Ned. So we're going to talk a lot about Fox Bet. However, Andy, there is no way in the world we're not going to talk about Disney and Disney Plus. I'm going to work very hard to ask you questions you'll be allowed to answer.
Because I will avoid them.
I guess the category of I'd rather say this than get even one email accusing me of hiding it. I am an early investor and an ongoing advisor to, as you know, Andy, to DraftKings. So, you know, technically speaking, I have a bias towards a competitor of yours, but, well, not technically speaking, I do have a bias towards a competitor of yours, but I did want to, you know, reveal that in public. By the way, Andy did spend a couple of years at Disney and BAMTech, and was it 2 or 3 years?
Just about 3 years.
Yep, and we originally met years before that when you were working with Mitch Davis on Massive, which sold to Microsoft for a good exit.
It was Autodesk actually was the acquirer of the microtransaction platform from Live Gamer, but yeah, that was exciting times.
Cool. So talking about excitement, you go to Disney, you go to BAMTech, and all of a sudden you guys are going to launch a worldwide SVOD service. What was the environment like? Were you like in one of the most exciting, rushed environments? I mean, you guys, you know, blew through anybody else's subscription numbers, you know, overnight. And maybe what were a couple of the highlights of launching Disney Plus?
Look, I mean, I think when I joined BAMTech in June 2017. Disney had owned a minority stake at that point, but acquired a majority stake that September. So I joined with an MLB email address, moved to a BAMTech Media email address, and then to a Disney email address, all within a very short amount of time. So it was a really quick spin out, and then everyone was ready to start really ramping on ESPN Plus first, and then the longer term eye towards Disney Plus. And certainly, it was an incredible opportunity. I mean, very exciting, as you mentioned. I mean, working on launching ESPN Plus and Disney Plus, really a singular opportunity, and one of those rare instances when the disrupted becomes the disruptor. So it was very challenging, very exciting, and honestly, truly humbling. And as you mentioned, we met each other during one of my stints as an entrepreneur in between being on the digital teams in big media companies. But for someone who's entrepreneurial minded, it did provide this unique mix of a fluid and dynamic environment while working with some of the most, treasured IP in the world, and alongside some of the most talented and visionary executives. So having that balance was truly a highlight for me and in my career.
Yeah, you certainly had a lot of promotional capabilities. It seems like you guys pulled almost every lever that there was, which is exactly what the Disney organization should be doing, right?
Well, for sure, and both ESPN Plus and Disney Plus were obviously a top priority. It was leadership's top priority. Disney's got a very collaborative environment, and so people from various groups were encouraged and enthusiastic about collaborating, and thinking about all the different outlets to leverage was truly impressive, and really helped to make it the success that it was, both the people and the marketing prowess and reach that the company has.
Yeah, you guys had so many good ways to get your message out. And it's funny, I was getting a new phone right about the same time. And I, of course, got free Apple TV, which is amazing, right? How could you ask for better promotion than your phone already has this SVOD service? However, I've never gotten past the app. I think it wants authentication, which I personally have no idea what my DirecTV password is. I'm sure I could change it. So tell us about the AVOD, SVOD, environment today. And then I'm also going to ask you to comment on cord cutting, and then we'll talk about Fox Bet. Is there any story you're not allowed to tell us about Disney that you'd like to share? Because just between you and me, Andy, possibly?
Just between you and me? Well, look, I think there are many others who will tell their stories, who are still working on the project and growing the projects, and and acquiring and engaging customers every day. So I'm going to leave all of the stories to them, especially given now that I've got some perspective on the general market, and certainly want to get towards what I feel is a really truly exciting next generation field, which is online sports betting. So let's go with.
I bet you're right about that too.
With door B.
I bet you're right about that too. So just give us a quick read on the AVOD, SVOD macro scene. All the major players that we're going to see out there, and how many can the consumers take of these things?
Well, look, I mean, given the times, choice is really great for consumers. They've got so many, both SVOD and AVOD services to select from. So choice is generally a good thing, especially when there's a lot of time to consume entertainment, as we've seen recently. And I also think it's an important move for all of the major media companies, for sure, to attempt to own their own destinies. After all, having kind of the mix of content distribution and this direct consumer relationship is the ultimate promise. And broadband penetration and fast streaming, product development and connected television accessibility, the time seems to be right. So clearly there's a lot of choice. Now, how many a consumer can tolerate is another question. And I think to that point, right now, there are many D2C services out there. And again, many have seen incredible growth. But there's also some confusion out there. I mean, this is to be expected. What does the brand stand for? What devices is it available on? Why can't I see a complete catalog available on a specific device, but I see other titles pertaining to that catalog? And I think a lot of those things are going to work themselves out. The marketers are going to do their job and explain the value proposition. The brand will be positioned. Content rights will repatriate to the content. And those kind of things will figure themselves out. But I think in the next phase here, and we see a lot of great offers. You mentioned the Apple TV Plus offer. There's HBO Max offers. There were Verizon Disney Plus offers out there. At some point in the not too distant future, the pivot has to come from acquiring customers to engaging and retaining customers. And those offers will expire. The deals may go away. And those content companies are really going to have to work hard to retain and win those hearts and minds for the long term. So I do think you're going to see an effort in the marketplace around either extending some of those offers when the 12 months hits, really substantial content drops, new features and functionality, and things that will help retain over a period of time.
Obviously, I think the biggest competitor to ESPN, correct me if I'm wrong, is Fubo, right?
I mean, they do offer a sports SVOD service. You know, there are other competitors out there too, like DAZN, and others.
You think we'll see more acquisitions with those 2 or 3 that are still independent?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, given that in some ways it's a, you know, bigger players need tech, bigger players need audiences. Sometimes acquisition can accelerate both. And so we may see some more acquisitions. We certainly saw a number of AVOD acquisitions most recently to build up customer base, technology capability, business practices, right, that may be new to a traditional media organization, but when you're in a direct-to-consumer marketing practice especially, there's different tools and a different mindset to apply. So I think it is an acquisitive market and will continue to be.
Okay, last online sports gambling question. Where do you see cord cutting going over the next year?
Accelerating. I think, you know, the model, people are enjoying having content on demand on multiple devices on their terms. I think we're getting to that adoption curve where we're clearly in a mass market. And people have experimented now because they were looking for new entertainment options. So I do think it's going to accelerate for the next year. I think long term, it'll be really interesting to see as entertainment seems on a cord cutting basis when you're opting in to a content service, a subscription, a video on demand service, or a advertising supporting one. Increasingly, it feels like you're opting into a more holistic ecosystem. So I think, you know, what we're seeing today with both the cord cutting trend, the uptake in and sort of the vertical integration between some of these content services with different kind of data set services or delivery services actually is a bigger play. And I think it will result in something that is much more significant than the streaming wars on whether HBO Max is going to take on Netflix. I think it's really, we're at the formative formative place for a grander ecosystem battle between several different factions.
Yeah, I think your point of view is far more nuanced than these cable executives understand. You know, they're all fighting to keep the old business when there in fact are some great new businesses for them. I mean, they're doing a good job with ISP. You know, as you know, I've studied cord cutting for a lot of years, and I was out early, you know, at 1% projections 10 years ago, and had it Goldman Sachs in my annual presentation. I think I had a 7 to 12% reduction this year. And a gentleman that you and I both know well took me aside one day, and he said, "So you keep predicting cord cutting is going to go up. when is it going to just fall off the cliff? When is there going to be some huge catalyst? And I turned to him and I said, huge economic recession. It was about a year ago. So we'll see. You don't see that in the numbers yet, but it's going to be, interesting over time to see. Okay, well, most people don't really need TV, because who wants to do anything more than watch sports and call their bookie? What could make for a better Saturday? Maybe a beverage. So tell me, what is this Fox Bet? I had no idea. I thought it was the Wall Street Journal.
Well, I'm sure you're familiar with Fox Sports.
Indeed, no question about it.
Yes. So Fox Bet is a mobile sports book. It's kind of a first of its kind partnership in the U.S., aligned with Fox Sports. And you mentioned, we're part of the Stars Group. Fox Bet actually was part of the Stars Group, sister company to a number of other betting products around the world, like BetEasy and PokerStars, and notably. But I also want to note that the company recently merged with Flutter Entertainment, who operates Betfair and TVG, Paddy Power, and is also the parent company of FanDuel, as you mentioned. So Fox Bet now rolls up into the FanDuel group. So we have the merger created one of the largest, if not the largest, online gaming entities in the world. So we're very pleased to be part of that. So Fox Bet launched 3 products within a span of about 10 days between August 2019 and September 2019. We launched Fox Bet Sportsbook in Pennsylvania and in New Jersey, and Fox Bet Super 6, which is a free-to-play app with cash prizes and a jackpot. Later on, we launched PokerStars, which is the #1 poker brand in Pennsylvania, with ties to the Fox Bet app. That was November 2019. And then this past May, we launched Fox Bet Sportsbook in Colorado. So there's a number of products out there. We're running real money sports books. We're running PokerStars for regulated poker, as well as casino products. And I think the big takeaway here, one of the key differentiators for Fox Bet, is the concept. To your point, there was a big incumbent market of bettors who were looking to, enhance their viewing experience of sports. And that's really what the alignment with Fox Sports does for Fox Bet. It's for U.S. sports fans who want to enhance their sports viewing experience. And our relationship with Fox allows for things like on-air, on-screen sports betting integrations and TV programming through their digital product. And we work very closely with their producers and their talent to both demystify some of the terminology around sports betting, but also create really fun and engaging experience on air that ties back to the app in regulated states.
All right. I made a few notes so we can clear a couple things up here. I stupidly thought last month you told me Stars, S-T-A-R-Z.
It was the Stars Group.
So is that the same one with the Z, or I thought this was a different one?
No, it was headquartered in the UK. It's the Stars Group, S-T-A-R-S Group. So it was a large online betting federated company, multiple brands, and they merged with Flutter.
Okay.
And that was just recently.
Is it public knowledge of the general size of the combined company?
I probably could find some public stats for you, but I don't have them right now.
Cool. And let me understand that in terms of sports, you're doing both traditional sports gambling and you're also doing daily fantasy.
So we don't do daily fantasy now, but obviously as being part of the FanDuel group, daily fantasy is a big part of the overall business.
Okay, so those two divisions, if you will, you're doing the real sports betting, they're doing the fantasy.
Well, it's not exclusive to that extent. They have fantasy products, they have sports products, they've got other products as well. We're part of a federated system of different brands that represent different either product experiences or audiences or positioning in the market. So there's quite a lot of brands. When you look at a brand that's also operated as a sister company like Betfair also has a casino brand. So it's very common in this part of the world to actually have this federated model where you have multiple front doors into these kind of online betting experiences.
You got tremendous remarketing, cross-promotion network effect here. Good for you guys.
Yeah, I think that's one of the keys too, is to be able to go ahead and do that and leverage kind of that network effect. And people who come in through Poker Stars, we can introduce them to the sports betting aspect or the casino aspect. And that's actually a core differentiator for us as well, especially in multi-product markets. So Colorado, for instance, we're only sportsbook, but in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, we have multiple products in the market. So that does help. It does help with the network effect for sure.
And UA can be certainly pretty expensive. I did see a public LTV figure for the industry that was a few years old that was like around $500. I've heard the LTV, not from DraftKings, from other people, these LTVs can be $1,000. If you've got players like that, you can afford to spend some money advertising.
Well, sure. I mean, look, user acquisition, is key to this business. Retention, though, is also key to this business. Optimizing average revenue per user, lifetime value, all of these performance metrics that have been applied in the video game space, applied now in the direct-to-consumer space, and applied here in this part of the industry. They're all, well-worn marketing approaches at this point. But you're absolutely right. It's about that between the cost per acquisition and the lifetime value. I think, again, the differentiator for us, we're also with a large media organization. So it's a different scale and a different kind of megaphone to use to acquire customers and also to brand ourselves a lot differently. Plus, we have a free-to-play product that's nationwide called Fox Bet Super 6. And that also acts as an incredible way to acquire customers and then introduce those customers to the sportsbook in the states that the sportsbook's legal and the customers from Super 6 overlap.
I don't know if we have anybody from Skills listening in or not, but that was a pertinent comment for them, wasn't it? So you named the states here, and I think there's probably 15 or so states that really matter. Is that about right, or so? 12 in terms of size. Some you're never going to get approval in. Should we expect to see a few states announced on a regular basis from you guys?
Well, I think in general, just to talk a little bit about the market, there are actually more. There's about 22 total states where sports betting is legal. And there are more coming online. So aside from anything that we would talk about, like just to give the audience a background, May the 4th used to be a big day for me while working at Disney, especially on Star Wars. Now it's May the 14th, which was the day that PASPA was repealed, which allowed for the states to go in and legalize. So today, sports betting is now legal in some form in 22 states, and we expect another phase to come in this coming November's ballot, which would include South Dakota, Tennessee, Maryland, Louisiana, North Carolina, and then more to follow. Now, this is a tax revenue, opportunity for states. That's one of the things they take into consideration. So we'll see how fast the market may accelerate. But so far, so good. And, the states are coming online at quite a clip.
I know you're new to the job, so I'm not going to ask you about the intricacies of online sports gambling in Nebraska. But I do think everybody would like to know a little bit more, to the extent you're familiar with it, about how the whole California situation is. I guess I had naturally assumed that California would be right there with New Jersey and Pennsylvania quickly, but they're not yet.
Right. And look, I can't comment specifically on any one state,
Okay.
but I'm
I
happy to
respect
point
that.
your audience in the right direction.
Yes, everybody online here, I know some of you are heavy gamblers. Write your state assemblyman, write your state senator, for sure. And then the international presence that you guys have at Fox Bet, that sounds certainly based on your brotherly companies, like a tremendous international footprint. Is it predominantly Europe?
I mean, UK, Australia, Europe. Yep. And in fact, I would say that a big part of Fox was using a playbook that was very successful, especially in the UK, based on the Sky Bet model. So when bringing Fox Bet to the US, there was already a very successful playbook in the UK, and it was based on a similar kind of integration with Sky. And so one of my sister companies now is Sky Betting and Gaming, who has been very successful over 15 years building that business into the UK's leading online betting brand. So that's kind of also another nuance here, is taking a page of what worked, running a playbook, adapting it appropriately for the market, and growing from there.
Well, I think all of us have seen how popular gambling is in so many locations. Explain to me, and maybe some other people here are interested too. I know there's a lot of complicated statistics that go into NFL. I guess they call it the line or something like that. And I guess some guys in this online sports gambling business make their own decision about what the line should be, and other people have partners. Is that roughly how it works, or?
There's different ways. There's internal trading teams, and there are syndicated trading lines. So it's a combination, and it's, from what I've found thus far in my 6 weeks on the job, there's a combination used at some level amongst most of the players in the industry.
So there's a risk and skill diameter here in the business that's somewhat novel, I would say.
Well, look, I think it's an important part of the business, right? Creating opportunities, understanding the risk, understanding the trades, making the bets. That's all part of the business and being successful in this business.
I assume you're now prohibited from online sports gambling. I don't know. They have enough bookies.
Becoming officially a casino operator.
They have enough bookies out in Long Island. I don't know. Okay. Talk to us about novel user acquisition. I know that people on the phone here are super interested in both gaming and video categories. You've done a lot of it. Where do you think the whole user acquisition world is going? How much is mobile going to be a play for you guys and CPI? Give us some early insights into innovations in the UA world around something like this.
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, I'll talk in generalities. I can talk about, what we're doing specifically in Fox Bet. But I think, to really simplify user acquisition, you think about a funnel, right? There's the top of the funnel, which is a lot of above the line marketing. So you're brand building, you're driving interest, demand. Hopefully you're driving intent, which is more in the middle of the funnel when you think about it. And you would use things like TV, and in our case for Fox Bet, it's leveraging our Fox Sports relationship, all of the content integrations that we have on air, working with incredible talent like Terry Bradshaw and Shannon Sharp to promote Super Six and Fox Bet respectively, and to get the word out at the top of the funnel. Then other tactics kind of come into play to make sure that you're starting to convert that awareness and that demand into intent, and eventually lower funnel, which is where you convert customers and you get them to sign up. So we look at above the line marketing, below the line marketing, and TV, linear, stunts, out of home, talent relationships, spokespeople, sponsorships, things that are going to really draw some great attention. But then there's that hard-working media, more direct response, a lot of digital, being able to really target, really get sophisticated in understanding your customer needs and their drivers, making sure that the creative is aligned to those needs and drivers and you're serving it up appropriately. And you're always testing and learning. So one thing we did quite a lot of at Disney, and certainly performance marketers of all stripes, from video games to subscription marketers, have adopted a rigorous test and learn agenda. So everything from the image that's displayed to the call to action to the color of the button becomes optimized. So can't do this with above the line media so effectively, but as soon as you get into the performance marketing side of things, it becomes a game of inches, and you look to optimize every step of that acquisition funnel, from multiple touches through search and display and social, through landing pages, and all the way through your sign-up flow and conversion. So all of those things become very important. And as a technologically minded marketer, as well as a brand marketer, there are a lot of great tools out there that help to optimize. And that's really important in any modern marketer's arsenal, is to have the right tools available to optimize that funnel that I just described.
So you mentioned social. You guys are driving followers on certain platforms. You have a couple platforms you're trying to push most on?
I mean, look, it's what's performant, right? We let the data guide the decisions. Certainly there are people, influencers, great analysts from FS1 who have their social following, Fox Sports 1 that is. And we partner with them to leverage their audience reach, create compelling content with them. So they might be stronger on Twitter, or they might be stronger on Instagram. From the paid media side, it often used to amplify those messages, but also depending on what's performant, we'll lean in and try to be as agile and nimble as we can.
Are there influencers in the online sports gambling space in the sense of broadcasters?
Well, I think there's quite a few. Absolutely, there's several that we work with. Colin Cowherd, Carissa Thompson, cousin Sal Icano, many others, right? Including many others. There's great sports podcasters out there. There are definitely influencers for this world in the same way that you might think about influencers in the video game space, for instance.
I thought you were
going to say experts in their industry and have followers, and they're highly influential.
Thanks for connecting me with games. I thought you were going to say food and wine.
You're my biggest influencer in food and wine, Mike.
Yeah, I am big. So I have to ask this question, and then we're going to take some questions from the audience. By the way, please go in the Q&A box, a number of you, and including some buddies of mine like Steve LeBlanc. I have put it, but I have to ask this because I told you I was going to, and now I really want to know it actually. So I know you turned down big gigs at SpaceX and Virgin Galactic, and biggest artificial intelligence, machine learning, Palantir, etc. So I know those are all boring ideas, but now that you're conquering gambling and sports gambling, what's next for you after this, young man?
Look, it's one greenfield market at a time, Mike. This is super exciting. I'm fully focused on this and committed. There's a huge growth opportunity here, and have to be prudently aggressive to build our market share and capture the hearts and minds of sports fans who want to supercharge their viewing experience through online gambling. And my personal life, I've got an 18-year-old who's off to University of Albany to study business, and I've got a 13-year-old who's in Python. So in my future, I hope to put those two things together, help them do their seed round, and then the Series A will be up to them.
Python coding?
Yeah.
Or Python computer coding?
Yes.
Not Python slivery.
No.
So that's
Python coding. So learning how to code in Python.
Tell them to make a game on Manticore. They're kicking butt. So Jeffrey Stansfield says here, I want to talk about, he wants you to talk a little bit about before COVID, there was starting to be a lot of esports. He tells me here some betting on esports at casinos and broadcasting on esports. He's probably referring to the Vegas facility. Do you think there will be esports betting in the future? And what do you think is a possible timeline? And will that evolve also state by state?
Yes, it will evolve state by state. Each game has to be verified by state gaming authorities. So there has been some movement. For our Super Six product, for instance, is not gambling; it's contest based. But we've supported NASCAR e-racing, for instance. But there are states who have embraced League of Legends, for example. And Mike, you know this. I've been a big esports fan for many years and ran a tournament platform for the head competitions. And I think this is one of the really interesting opportunities in the future, for sure.
Yeah, it's quite a thing when you got to go right into the professionals from high school or not even finish high school. One thing not to finish college. And then these poor guys, they're not athletes. They're not esports athletes by the time they're 21. They've lost their thing. So it's be a heavy, rapid turnover. To the extent you're comfortable talking about, the dynamics around sports and also audience and whatnot, I tend to believe that audience schmaudience, that once their game's being played, gamblers are going to bet on them. But can you speak to the general? I actually believe there'll be a substantial pent-up demand. Can you speak to kind of the environment we're in today and how you see sports and sports gambling evolving over the next 18 months?
Well, sure. I think unique time, right? And with sports pulling back, man was pent up, and yes, you saw esports on sports outlets like ESPN and others, right? So that was interesting. But then you saw NASCAR come back, and you saw UFC come back, and you see golf now back, and so we are very excited for the NFL season coming back, college football coming back, NBA. So I think this is going to be a really interesting time where a lot of sports will be in alignment in the fall, major sports, and there will be that pent-up demand. And this will be a good thing for fans and athletes and people in our business too.
Am I wrong to dismiss the live audience? I mean, I feel these are professional athletes. Even the cheapest guys making good money. I feel like these guys are capable of playing in a quiet environment.
I mean, to be determined, right? We saw Korean baseball being played in without full crowds there. There's a lot of dynamicism around crowds, and the audience feeds off it, the players feed off of it. So I think we'll have to see what the situation is like, and this fall when NFL launches.
I thought NFL did a good job with the virtual draft. I thought they did a good job of capturing the crowd and 25 paces, people's faces, and it's kind of like tic-tac-toe meets Brady Bunch. I thought it was fun. I actually like this draft more than any others. Okay. I did not pay for this question. Ken Lloyd would like to know your competitive advantage versus DraftKings. I mean, I think you've spoken to this to some extent, but go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think in general, our market positioning with a partnership with Fox Sports is one of the keys to a differentiator. I mean, when you think about Fox Sports, it's one of the most iconic sports brands in the U.S. Fox Sports carries more live NFL games than any other network. They carry the biggest events, Super Bowl, World Series, Daytona 500, full slate of college football, just to name a few. So I think when you can merge this concept of online betting and media together, it's truly accretive, and it creates a competitive differentiator for us. And it brings in a different kind of audience. It brings in a sports enthusiast who may or may not have ever bet before, or wants to gamify, if you'll beg my forgiveness for using that term, their sports viewing experience with their friends and family. and have more fun watching sports. So I think that's a big differentiating factor. And as I mentioned before, we've got this multi-product approach where we have a very popular free-to-play app that can run nationwide in Fox Bet Super 6. We can direct customers, and we've got the #1 poker brand in PokerStars. So we do have these things that we can leverage together for cross-pollination, for efficient user acquisition, and for retention.
I can't play PokerStars for real money in the U.S. Is that still the case?
It's in New Jersey and Pennsylvania.
New Jersey and Pennsylvania, and that's because you applied for it there and got approval.
Yeah, we brought it into market in Pennsylvania, November of 2019.
DraftKings does not have a poker product, correct?
I don't know, Mike, you're an investor.
I don't believe they do. I think that's a very interesting. I think that alone is very interesting. Craig Amazine, you got to put on your seatbelt for this one, Andy. How do you view quantum computing impacting, disrupting sports betting in the future? Dr. Schneider, Professor Schneider.
That's not a seatbelt I think I own. It's a phenomenal question. I'm sure you're getting towards yes. I wouldn't begin to be able to answer it, but I could tell you this: if I could become a more efficient marketer, I'm all in.
I'm assuming you guys would probably have some pretty fancy big data people. This is okay. We got a long question here from Steve LeBlanc. He's interested in the breadth of the site and the that you were just talking about and the connection to Fox. He says here, do you anticipate need or growth for original platform-specific content to supplement the gambling experience, such as Fox Sport 1, Lock It In, or ESPN Daily Wager?
Well, I mean, I'm glad you asked that question.
I guess LeBlanc's not following this industry at all.
No. It's great. I mean, look, content, media, and online gaming are coming together very much. Lock It In on FS1 is a produced with Fox in Philadelphia on Fox 29. We have Props and Locks, another show. So content creation is a key part of the strategy, and we're committed to bringing more content, both educational content, so more people can come in and understand some of those terms that you used before. What's a line? What's plus 170 mean versus minus 200? What's a decimal odd? Some of these, the nomenclature is commonplace for a lot of people who have been sports bettors, and certainly from the UK. But content helps to educate. Content, especially branded content, Fox Sports Talent or Fox Sports Talent, helps to create trust, which is another big issue in this industry, which we're fully committed to. So I think very important. Suffice it to say, we're already on the way there.
Steve also asked, putting on his continuing with his programming hat, a la gaming centers in Europe, and I have to call out that though Stephen is an American, because he's asking me a question about centers in Europe, he has actually given us the English UK spelling of centers. A la gaming centers in Europe, do you see any potential expansion from sports into awards, reality competitions, for instance, guessing who the masked singer is?
Interesting. Well, I think we've done some interesting things like that, but in the Super 6 product, which is again a contest that's free to play. So I think there are ways to have a lot of fun with those kind of things, and kind of put your, in that case, knowledge and skill to the test.
Okay. I'm going to ask Travis's last question, and we're going to be done. Andy, what do you think about in-game live betting here in the U.S.? It isn't as big of a market yet, as far as I know, but it's very big overseas. Think it will dominate here long term? And maybe you could explain to us what that means, by the way.
Well, it's betting as a game happening live, right? So It is a feature and it is a market that is supported within our apps. Right now, I can't speak to the size of the market, but to me, it's pretty compelling. And I think, it adds another dimension, especially as you're watching sports live.
So I'm assuming you have an offer in the appropriate states where you're allowed to for starting an account and matching my money or adding some money in for me to play with, right?
Yes, in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Colorado now.
And is there a website or is it a mobile app or both?
Please go to fox.bet.
And for those of you, Andy, cover your ears. Do not forget your visits to the great electronic wall of China, and bring your VPNs for those of you not in those states. No, just kidding. I would never really recommend that. Andy, you're a great guy. You tolerate me. You look great. It's good to see you. I want to thank everybody for participating today, and just remind you that tomorrow we're doing a game-centric session, and Ned announced it earlier, and it's online, and hope everybody has a great afternoon. Thank you,
Thank
Andy.
you, Mike. Thank you, Ned.
Thank you, Andy. Thanks, Mike. Great conversation. See everybody tomorrow.